Welcome to Faith Filled Investing, the podcast where faith and real estate intersect. Join host Owen Cooper as he interviews real estate investors who are also strong believers in Jesus. Get inspired by their stories and discover how they live out their faith in the workplace. Learn practical tips and strategies for successful real estate investing. Whether you're a seasoned investor or exploring alternative ways to grow your wealth, this podcast will motivate, educate, and connect you with like-minded Christians in the real estate industry. Tune in to Faith-Filled Investing and join the movement of faith-driven real estate investors.
Welcome to Faith-Filled Investing. I'm your host, Owen Cooper. This week we'll be hearing from Jennifer Barner to learn about her faith journey, her real estate journey, and how those two have intersected. So welcome, Jennifer. So glad to have you be willing to join the podcast today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
So we actually haven't known each other that long, and I have my own version of this story, but you tell from your perspective, how did we get to know each other? And tell a little bit about what that's been like so far.
Yeah, so we got to know each other through a multifamily, our mastermind group, basically a mentorship group. And I feel very fortunate to be working with you. And I just know that God's got some big things in store for your journey as you kind of look towards multifamily. So
Yeah, amen.
Excited to know you.
Yeah, you're so humble. So Jennifer is my coach, and I've been so grateful. So when I joined this group, they kind of get, if you decide to get a coach, you get somewhat randomly assigned. And I remember when they asked like what I was looking for in a coach, I was like, well, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm looking for. But afterwards, after I had that conversation, I was like, it would be nice if they were a believer, if we had the same value system. And so the first time that you and I talked, Jennifer, and find that you were a believer as well, it was really encouraging for me. And all of our conversations, just being able to be very open about our faith has been great. So that was definitely an answer to prayer on my side as well, too.
I love that. And for me as well. Yeah, I'm always asking that God would put my name on the hearts of people that believe and that I can help them grow in real estate.
Yeah. So we've only, I think it's been a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months. A lot. I feel like a lot has happened then, but you have a longer history than a few months, and you and I talk a lot about real estate and learning, sharing experience like that. We don't get to talk as much about the faith side of things, and so I'm actually excited for the opportunity today. So what has your journey with Jesus looked like in your life?
I love that question, and I don't think anybody's ever asked me that, so thank you for asking. I grew up as a Methodist and brought up in the church to go weekly, but it wasn't until I got into high school and I went through confirmation, had to learn, all the books of the Bible and stuff like that, and important scriptures, right, that we all hopefully know. But it wasn't until I was 18 in high school, I was 17, 18, that I recognized a young lady, a peer of mine, going into the classrooms holding a Bible. And I thought, that's odd. I've never seen another high school student carrying around a Bible every single day. So I befriended her and I said, why do you carry the Bible around every day? I'm not used to seeing that. And she goes, I just like to, have an ongoing conversation with God throughout the day. I'm like, well, don't you do that on Sundays? And she's like, well, we can have a relationship with the Lord. He tells us to pray without ceasing. I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard that saying 1,000 times. Why do I think that I can only pray on Sundays? And so it was just life-changing. And fortunately, we became really, really good friends. And she became a maid of honor in my wedding.
Oh, cool.
And has really helped me walk my a life of getting to know the Lord or Savior intimately, and not just keep him in a box on Sundays.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love that personal and relational story of, you have that good foundation. I thank the Lord for it, right? Not everybody has that opportunity. And then, but turning that to that personal relationship, not only with the Lord, but from a person, from a friend, right? Who you got to see that exampled, and then, and that made an influence on you, obviously, as you've
Mhm.
gone throughout. So tell me a little bit, it doesn't have to be, like super detailed, but, from that point on, high school till up to this point, like, what does that journey look like for you, in your walk in the years since?
Yeah, well, since then, I always was career driven. And when we started having children, we have 4 children. But after 2, I just was praying that God would show me what the years look like ahead. Am I supposed to be
Mm,
staying at home with the kids? And so thankfully, God brought me home, and I was able to stay at home and raise our children. He also helped me birth a group called Building Better Moms, and
hmm.
it's now across 800 churches. So
Are you
I'm
serious?
I'm really excited about that. At 26, I asked the pastor, "Where's the moms group?" And he said, "There is no moms group." And I said, "There's all these little kids and moms everywhere, and this is a new church." And he said, "Well, you should start one." And with the help of the Lord, on that very first meeting, we had 90 moms and 150 kids
Oh
that
my
were cared
gosh.
for by the elder women in our church.
Mm,
And it took 6 months to get that thing up and running, but God had his hand all over that and just magnified it. And so when I look back now, that was 28 years ago, but it's now across 800 churches and it
wow.
still looks the same. I went back to a meeting and the format hasn't changed at all. It's beautiful. It's a witness and testimony to what when the Lord puts something on your heart and he has
Mm,
a hand in it, how he will just make it just catch on like wildfire. But
wow.
I have been able to stay at home and raise our children, and God has faithfully covered all of our needs, and then brought real estate into my life as the kids were starting to head off to college. And he's just blessed us uh, uh, in such great ways, more than I could ever explain to anybody. It's just
Yeah.
been really abundance.
Yeah.
Um, so he's really, we brought all of our kids up in the church, and I've tried to teach them the importance of having a walk daily with the
Mm,
Lord and bringing out our Bible before we go to school, reading the book of Proverbs and Psalms, whatever day of the week it
mm.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really been, important for our kids. And so or at least I hope I've had an impact on their lives to where they're having a deeper, more meaningful relationship earlier in their life than
Mm,
I came to know.
yeah, yeah. That's so good. So there's something that happens. So when you have this idea, your pastor kind of affirms it, you start a moms group. A lot of people have done that. A lot of people have started moms groups. I've never heard of that going to 800 different churches, uh, in different places. So how did that happen?
Um, well, so I had the idea. I put it in our church newsletter. I said, if anybody would like to help me start this. And I had another woman come together with me. And we just sat in her basement every single day and we outlined, does that look like MOPS, like Mothers of Preschoolers? That's an
Yeah.
organization. And we said, we don't think we need to pay another organization for something we know that every church needs. Every
Hmm.
church needs a community for their moms to help lift them up, give them a break from um, doing, motherhood on their own, having a chance to come together and build community.
Yeah.
And so as we outlined what we needed and what the organization would look like, we decided we need 7. There was 7 parts of it. And we just put something out to the church that said, "Hey, we're looking for, another 5 ladies to help us
Mm,
steward this in our church." And then we went to the elders of our church and said, "We're going to need your help. Would you be willing to step up?" And at first we had pushback from the elders,
mhm.
and they didn't think that they should help us or wanted. There was nobody there for them when they were raising their family.
Right.
So,
Right.
there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the women of the United Methodist Church came behind us.
Mm.
And like I said, overnight we had 3 groups to meet the demands of our growing church.
Wow.
And so I just kind of built a business model,
Yeah.
about the 7 positions and what their roles were. But what we did is, out of 90 women that showed up, every week they went to the same table,
Mm.
and there was a host for every table.
Yeah.
And that woman was responsible for making sure she had every woman showing up every week. And
Mm.
then every week, each table hosted the breakfast that was put on.
Yeah.
And so, there was an accountability there for women to show up and to be there, to be prayer warriors for their sisters at the table. And that didn't change until the semester. So around the Christmas,
Yeah.
calendar, or around that time frame, the the tables would change for the second half of the year. But you got to know a good 16 women every single year.
Yeah.
And those women became your circle. And it's fun because now I see some of these women, and they find out that I started the group, and they're like, "You have no idea. That was life changing. And it got
Mm.
me through motherhood in those early years when I had nobody."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that wasn't me. That was the Lord working through the group, and, just brought angels alongside me to help us roll that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So that's just super fascinating to me. Because I hear a couple of things. I know this is the place to give a plug for your podcast as well. You have a heart for moms, and I'm just like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So tell a little bit about your podcast, because I know there's people here that will want to jump into that.
yeah. Yeah. So my podcast is called Mastering Money for Moms. And that birthed again out of my dad's. Uh, he was raised in a home where his mother never had the opportunity to go to college. She didn't have a massive skill set. She never thought she was capable of
Mhm.
providing for her 3 children. So, out of desperation, she married 3 different men in her life to
Mm.
care for her children. And so, something that my father did is instill a principle that I needed to understand finances. I need to be good at math. So, in the event that I was ever found myself as a widow,
Mhm.
that I could provide for my own family.
Yeah.
And so every single day for many years after school, we would sit down and do my math together. And finally, I got to a point where I surpassed his knowledge, and I ended up getting a degree in finance. But I do have a passion to help people, because I think we don't do a good enough job in the school systems talking about money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't even teach people about how to rent an apartment. What are the things you need to save for? What should your budget look like? How do you build a budget? There's just none of that happening. Now, unfortunately, I haven't talked about these topics on my podcast, and I plan to do a better job this year.
Yeah.
Our podcast really is built around other women that are building a legacy, and equipping themselves. They believe in equipping themselves with the skill sets to help
Yeah.
liberate their family and their finances. So it's just, I want to give kudos to the other women out there that are really stepping up and trying to be the CFO of their household and being
Mhm.
prudent with the finances that God has blessed them with.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I know my wife has listened to a few episodes, and it's interesting because she listened to those episodes before she knew that you were my coach. She didn't make that connection, and then I mentioned your name. She's like, "Oh, is that Jennifer Barnett?" Yeah, that's the one. So anyway, I know that you're impacting some, and hopefully actually the other moms will be listening to this podcast and jump into that. So Money Mastery for Moms, right, is the name of that podcast.
Mastering
Mastering
money
money for
for
moms.
moms. You
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool. So,
Yeah.
so you talked a little bit about this. It sounded like it was kind of later. Your kids start getting older. that you kind of entered into the real estate space. Tell me how you discovered that, or were you doing something before that? What's your real estate life look like?
Yeah, so as a stay-at-home mom, sometimes and I hear this more often than not, you kind of lose your voice. You lose your
Yeah.
identity. You become your kid's mom. I was
Yeah.
always, oh, you're Jessica's mom or Stephanie's mom, Evan and
Right.
Nick's mom. People didn't even, they would call me by my children's names often.
Right.
And so I found a need that I really needed to put myself out there and try different things. So I got started in network marketing and gave, did fairly well at that for a while. But when that particular business kind of fizzled out, I was just pretty open to anything. And so one of my
Mhm.
girlfriends called me up and said, "Hey, I've got this ticket to a Rich Dad event. Would you like to go?" And I'm like, "That's a weird name. What's a Rich Dad event? I don't know anything about this, but I don't have anything going on. Let's go." So I went and joined her at that little event. And the craziest thing is when they were standing up there saying, "I could be dropped in any city and make money," my ears perked up. I'm like, "Wait, what? You can?" I mean, I kind of thought, wow, kind of what egos they had. But
Right.
then as they were sharing that they could teach you how to evaluate real estate and how to buy in such a way that you can leverage your IRA, um, that just was a game changer
Mm,
because I've been asking for years, how could we invest in other vehicles besides the stock market? Because
yeah.
we lost half of everything in 2008. And when that happened, I knew that eventually I was going to have to go back into the workplace. And my kids had just come accustomed to me staying at home and running them around to their different sporting activities. And that was going to cease because I was going to have to go into the workplace again.
Right.
And I just felt like it was an answer to prayer.
Mm.
So I signed up for that program. It was really expensive, but I figured I'm going to pay through for my education either through mistakes
Right.
or I could pay for it up front and not make any costly mistakes. And so I chose the latter. And fortunately, I was able to recoup my costs after, two homes of,
Yeah.
flipping two homes. And since then, it's just really been life changing for us. And we've been able to put all four of our kids through college debt free and changing just kind of what we're leaving to our kids and the
Yeah.
legacy that and now, it's always been a dream of mine to be an extravagant giver
Mm,
and not live paycheck to paycheck.
right.
And we're finally at that spot in life. The Lord's just really blessed us. So
Yeah.
eager
Yeah.
to be here.
Praise the Lord. That's so good. Yeah, I think of, um, yeah. So let me ask you. So did you start? I think I know this, but just to confirm, did you start with like flipping, and then you ended up holding a couple as rentals, or because I know you and I obviously met in multifamily. That's what we're talking about now, but I don't think you started there. So what did you get up to before that?
Yeah. So when I learned that I could use my IRA, the very first thing I did is I contacted my financial advisor and I said, I want to sell it all. I'm moving it to a qualified custodian who can buy on my behalf. And so that's what we did. That took a few weeks to move the money. And then I started diving in and looking at, okay, what can I buy and turn it into a rental? So my first three properties were rentals.
Okay.
And then after that, I went and got a heat lock on our home and decided those funds were going to help me flip properties. And so I used those funds to, buy a home, pay for the materials, flip it, and then I'd restore my heat lock and then it would grow a little bit.
Yeah.
And, our savings would grow. And I just kept doing that over and over and over to eventually where we got a nice stock, a nice pool of funds there that could help start to pay for our kids' colleges. And
Yeah.
then as I could, I started using my IRA to invest in syndications, which are multifamily apartment buildings. And that's how I dipped my toe in the water there.
Okay.
And then I realized, wow, I think I could actually do something significant if I become educated in that. So that's when I reached out and paid for that particular program. And that's really changed our life.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just because I'm not, I don't want to make assumptions of people listening. So you're talking about IRA. Did you use self-directed IRA, or was it a
Yes.
different? Okay. So a lot of people aren't familiar or aware that that's a thing that you can actually do. And so just want to highlight, if you have questions, if you're listening to this, you have questions, contact me. I'm not an expert at it, but I can send you to the right places. And I've done a similar strategy as you, Jennifer, and I know that was really freeing to me, because I didn't like the idea of just having somebody else kind of put my money wherever they thought it was best, and whether it did good or didn't do good, it really, I mean, it was their job, but they were managing, how many hundreds of other people's money. I was just one of the people in the pool, versus I get to say where it goes, and whether it goes well or not, it's in my hands, and you can do a lot better, and just even the freedom of having those choices is pretty good. So
Well, and let me just also add on to that, that for years we had asked our financial advisor, can we do this? And they kept saying, no, you can't. And what they really meant is, no, they couldn't.
right.
And so once I learned that you really can, you just have to have the right qualified custodian to act on your behalf, that's been a game changer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned, which again, a strategy I've used just to highlight for other people, is the HELOC, the home equity line of credit, where but the places where we live, there's a bunch of equity, usually, if you've owned it for a while, kind of sitting in there that is not untapped and not available. Now, you'll see advertisements for this banks and other places, and they'll advertise you to get a HELOC to go buy a boat or take a vacation, which is really stupid. Don't do that. But if you're going to do it to do something that creates more income for you or creates more money, and it's especially like the flips are great because it's a short term and then the money comes right back. For HELOCs, you're only paying on the money that you take out. It's not like a standard loan. So it's a great strategy. I just want to highlight for people too, because one of the things I'm hoping people get to just little tips and tricks along the way that can really help them in this journey as they're going. So
Yeah, and something else I'll add on to that is you can take out, typically, a local bank will allow you to take out uh, up to 60% of the equity. So if you've got $1 million home and you've got $600,000 that you have, that's equity in it, you can take 60% of that 600,000. So 360,000 of that can go towards flipping a home.
yeah,
Now, that was easy math, so that's why I chose a million.
right,
So,
right,
but
yeah.
hopefully you get the general idea.
Hi, Owen Cooper here with Rock Solid Investments. Sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation that's going on, but I did want to mention that if you are interested in investing with my company, or even just curious about it, please go to my website, rocksolidinvestments.com, ROC solidinvestments.com. You can sign up for newsletters. You can book a time to talk with me, and we can talk more about what that investing journey would look like for you. So glad you're part of this podcast. And now let's get back to the conversation.
Exactly. That's so really, really good. These are great. These are the nuggets I'm always hoping for. So this is, and you've started to answer some of this a little bit, but if you think maybe a little kind of the next level of this, we've talked about sort of your faith journey and your real estate journey. How have you seen those two intersect in your life? How has faith made a difference in your real estate life? Real estate made a difference in your faith life? Again, you've addressed some of that, but just even more, some more things to add to that.
Yeah, so something I did recently is I joined another women's faith-based mastermind.
Yeah.
And when I came back from it, I was so overwhelmed with the amount of love. I mean, I had a heart, just
Mm.
a burning desire for the Lord. And I 2 days after coming back from that conference, I had to go to my property that's an 80 unit down in Jacksonville, Florida. And this property resides in a community that just feels like there's strongholds over the community, a
Mm.
lack of desire for these people to get jobs. They really just, it's a beaten down community, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
And what I realized as I was coming over the bridge, that goes through the Jacksonville downtown community and going into this particular community, I realized right at that very moment that I was supposed to be at that conference so that the Lord would fill my cup so much that
Mm.
I would just start praying over the community, that strongholds would be released,
Yeah.
and that the people in that community, there would be a revival in that
Mm.
community, and that our particular tenant base would grow hungry for the word,
Mm.
and that they would grow hungry to actually work and to show up and to pay their bills on time. And there would just be really a dynamic shift in that community. And
Yeah.
then as I was driving into our property and I was doing inspections, I would just silently pray underneath my breath that, Lord, have your hand on these tenants, have your hand on these buildings. And as I approached one particular building, there was a pit bull that was not on a leash,
Mm.
and he started growling at me.
Wow.
And it was almost, it was eerie.
Yeah.
And I just was like, wow, I feel a darkness, a dark spirit over this building right here. And I
Mm.
asked the on-site, I said, do you feel the heaviness of this building? I said, it's just so weird. I feel it. She goes,
Mm.
oh, yeah, I don't like to go over that building at all because that pit bull is always off a leash. And we're actually evicting 2 people in that building. And I said, yeah, you need to call animal control. That dog needs to be picked up. And yeah, the sooner we get those people out, the better. And then God's going to bring some really great people into this community. And just in the last 2 weeks, he just is bringing us so many good applicants
Mm.
that have jobs. And I didn't know if my on-site manager was a believer. She said she had a money tree in her office, right? And whenever I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's we're not quite believing the same thing. And then my other partner, I didn't know if she was a believer, but I thought, you know what? This is my opportunity to live out my faith in my business.
Yeah.
So I just said, ladies, I've been praying so hard over our property and that the Lord would bring us good tenants that had jobs, that wanted to pay their bills on time. This is nothing that the rest of the world isn't already doing, right?
Right.
We all expect to pay bills on time. It's expected of us, right?
Right.
So I'm not asking anything big of the Lord, right? And I said, all of a sudden he's bringing us applicants that
Mm.
are good. And so one of my partners wrote back and she said, prayer plus hard work equals success.
Mm.
And I was like, that's you, Lord. That is you using me as a vessel to speak to them, to help them understand that, you know what, it's okay to pray. And if you don't know the Lord, I pray that they'll ask me about him.
Yeah.
And that maybe I'm going to be able to be a vessel for him to help change their lives and whatever they're walking through with their own children, because I know that they both have children too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. A phrase that I've been using a lot, maybe a business tagline, I'm not sure yet, but we invest in people, not properties. And what your example of that right there, like praying for the people, for the property managers, for the people involved in that's really what makes a property successful is not, obviously the walls have to still be standing, but it's the people in it, right? The people running it, managing it, and living in it. And if the better their lives are, the better that investment is. And also, it's an investment where like, yeah, we want to see a good return on our money, but we also want to see God move and work in those people and in their lives, and see,
Hmm.
them have better jobs, which makes them pay their bills on time, or better financial management, like like the heart you have for your podcast, or even being able to offer, Bible studies or opportunities for their kids club type things. This is really like a vision of that I'm ultimately trying to drive, for the multifamily that I get into, so that everybody's lives are better when they're a part of those properties. So I love that story.
That's beautiful. It's interesting because over the last 3 years, I keep having women come to me and they say, the Lord's put it on my heart that we're supposed to, I want to buy a building, a
Mm,
multifamily building that helps single mothers get back on their
mm,
feet. And we give them the tools they need and the resources. So over the last week, God has just continued to put this woman on my heart, and so we finally connected yesterday. And what she's doing, um, she's changing the lives of these single moms and equipping them with tools. And so what you're saying about we invest in people,
mhm.
um, that's huge.
Yeah,
And that's going to be big, I believe, in our future. And I know, Owen, we're going to do something together and it's going to be life changing for so many people, us included.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to grasp onto that vision of what you did with those mom groups, right? You saw a need in one local area, but the need
Mm-hmm.
was so great that it actually transformed 800 different communities and
Mm-hmm.
churches. And I see that actually in the tenant space with multifamily, that actually to change the whole industry, and recognizing that people aren't just trying to squeeze dollars out of people, but actually trying to make communities better and stronger. And yeah, so it begins right here. So join the movement, right? Here
Wow,
we are.
that was good. That something stirred in me on that one. I
Hmm.
cannot wait to see what comes of that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's good.
Well, I can tell you that it is. I do believe it's something God's put on my heart, the vision, and I have it posted everywhere. So in my bedroom, on my office wall next to me, in my day planner. So I'm thinking it and praying through it all the time, not knowing the details yet, but knowing that God's going to do stuff with that. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
that's really good. Well, I love. Okay, so that was a perfect story. And this one, you probably have a ton of different stories. A lot of times, if people are thinking about real estate or getting into it, they might see, the infomercials, or how you can make, $1 million or buy these houses with no money down, which is possible, but they always make it look easier than it really is, and of course all your tenants are going to love you, and you're not going to have any problems, and all the pit bulls will be on leashes, right? But we know that there's challenges in real estate, and I know that you shared some with me. So is there a challenge that you'd like to share with people about that you've had to overcome in real estate?
Yeah, so one that really took off a couple years ago during COVID was the fact that short-term rentals are a great path to making income, monthly income above and beyond what long-term rentals make.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, we've got two properties that are right next to a medical center, and it made perfect sense to convert them to short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Well, you have to buy a lot of furniture to furnish a home. And so
Right.
doing that to two homes, I was like, oh, that's going to take a year or two to recoup that.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, the traveling nurse program isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. In
Hmm.
fact, it's been a real challenge to keep our properties filled. And so it's an area where I've been praying that God would just give us, put my heart or my name or my homes on the hearts of the
Hmm.
people that are looking for good, safe, um, updated places to live while they're
Hmm.
seeking treatment, or maybe they're a physician or a nurse right in the area that are
Hmm.
looking for housing. So, God does answer prayers if you ask specifically. And
Yeah.
he actually did give me somebody that needed to
Hmm.
move in today.
Oh
Somebody
wow.
else just
Yeah.
moved out yesterday. And, if you get really specific with your prayers, he will answer them. But this has been an area that's really been a challenge because I had a home that sat 2 months
Mm,
with nobody in it. And I'm like, I believe that God gives us resources and we're supposed to steward them well. And
yes.
so this has been an area that I'm like, okay, Lord, if I'm supposed to convert it back, then let me do that. But in the meantime, until I'm waiting for a clear answer, I pray you bring us good tenants so we
Yeah.
don't have any downtime. So I would
Yeah.
just be cautious when you're listening to all these wonderful stories about people becoming zillionaires because it doesn't happen overnight. It's the slow and steady. It's the turtle that wins the race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So, well, that's actually probably an example right there. So we've been talking a lot about, and I know that there are people that listen to the podcast who have already jumped into real estate. I know a lot of people listening who are just interested in the idea. Maybe they're more interested in the faith aspect, and I know I've gotten feedback from listeners. And by the way, if you're a listener, give me feedback. I'd love to hear what you like and don't like, or what questions you do and don't like. Um, but I know that a lot of times people sit on an idea for a long time, like, oh, that seems like a good idea, right? Or I've listened to that, or might listen to all these podcasts and maybe I hope you be inspired to do things. But what would you say to someone who is considering investing in real estate but hasn't started yet?
Um, Gosh, that's really good. I think you have to become educated, but you don't need to become so educated that you become paralyzed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I would also encourage you to get some really good mindset books, like The Power of Positive Thinking.
Mm,
That's really good. Um, Think and Grow Rich. It helps you really figure out what are my goals and what am I trying to achieve it and why. And
yeah.
then asking yourself, is it in alignment with God? Right? Because
Yeah.
I look back and I think, some of the things I did were probably out of selfish ambition. And some of them were not easy that I had to overcome. And I think, yeah, that wasn't from God. That was my own doing. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that listening to podcasts, reading books, making sure you have a mentor that's in alignment with your values that can help you along the way is
Hmm.
probably some of the best things you can do for yourself. Otherwise, you're out there just floundering on your own, wondering if you're buying right, if you're thinking through things correctly. It really helped me. I had a mentor in every phase of my real estate, and it just exponentially grew my business.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's like wandering out in the desert for 40 years when it's an 11-day path, right, to the promised land.
Right.
It doesn't have to take a long time. I met somebody that was a Tony Robbins platinum member who paid $180,000 to be with Tony Robbins for a solid year. And
Wow.
they would come together. It was an investment you made to be in his space every 6 weeks. So when I learned that he was right here in my market, I wanted to be around him. And I said, can I take you to coffee? I want to know more about you. I'm just intrigued about your journey. And so
Yeah.
he gave me an hour of his time and
Wow.
he said, listen, Jennifer, one thing you need to know, every single lane of real estate will make you money. However, every time you change lanes, you have to go to the back of the line.
Hmm.
So imagine yourself in the cafeteria line, and all of a sudden you go past the green beans, and then you realize, I'm at the rolls now, and I really wanted those green beans. Well, you got to go to the back of the line, right? And it's the same way in real estate. They're all profitable. So pick a lane, stay in it, get educated in it, learn enough, and when you feel like you've done enough transactions in that space, then maybe you jump over to a different lane.
Yeah.
But it's really important to stay in that lane and see it through. Um, and again, get a mentor. They will save you from making a lot of costly mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. And I also like that. That's beyond real estate advice. That's good life advice.
It
Like,
is.
yeah,
Yes.
find mentors, find people who have gone before you, and learn from them. And most people are really happy to share what they've learned. And if they're not happy, they're not the kind of mentor you want anyway, right? So you want to find the right
Amen.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. Well, you've mentioned in our conversation already a bunch of different reasons that real estate has been a blessing to you, and actually you've been able to bless others through it. Is there any that we haven't mentioned yet that you think have been good reasons of why you've invested in real estate?
Well, for me, I have to recognize my husband here because when I signed up for this program, it was very sizable expense, and I wasn't making any money for our family. And we kind of went back and forth, and he said, "Do you really think we need to spend this kind of money to get the education you need? The resources are probably out there for free."
Hmm.
And we finally came full circle, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to support you. I believe in you. I need you to believe in you.
Mm,
And so this is going to be your journey. I'm going to be here the whole time." So, what I would say is for me, my husband helped me find my voice in
mm,
my life, and he helped me figure out who I was as a person again. He
mm.
fell in love with me, and we started having a family, and then I just lost my identity.
Yeah.
And so I think real estate is the perfect vehicle to allow you to raise your family and still contribute to the household. Um, it's just, it's been such a blessing to me from a, just giving me courage and
Mm.
strength to believe in all the skills that the Lord blessed me with years ago that I had completely forgotten about.
Wow.
And it's been fun because the very first home that I went to buy, I'll never forget my daughter, who was 16 at the time. She was my eldest. I was telling her, she came walking in after school, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Jessica," I'm shaking my hands. I said, "I don't know if I can do this. This is a lot of money to spend on a house. I've never done this before. Your dad's entrusting me with all this money and giving me all this. He's just telling me to go for it." And she's like, "Mom, you've been studying behind this desk now for months.
Mm.
You know this stuff, and it's all going to be okay. We all believe in you now. So now you need to believe in yourself."
Wow.
And when she said that, I was like, wow, my own kids believe in me. And right there, I was like, they just blessed me. My husband blessed me. So just stepping out in faith and realizing I've got all these angels around me and they're all cheering me on. I
Yeah.
just needed to walk in and trust that the Lord had me too. And when I
Mm.
did, he just continued to bring me better and better opportunities.
Mm.
So, um, it's bigger than real estate. It gave me my life back and my voice back. So I'm
Wow.
so appreciative. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. I'm really glad I asked it because that all the things you just said are not the typical answers that I hear for people of why they invest in real estate. But
Mm.
they're like so much on a deeper and a personal level that is really beautiful. And I think like you said, it doesn't have to be true just for you, but can be true for a lot of other people as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you're handing out hope today.
Well, it's been a blessing to also show my daughters
Hmm.
that it's okay to step away from what you thought was going to be your calling in your career to
Oh,
raise your children, and then to step back into something that God is going to make up time
yeah.
if you allow him to. And it's really hard. It took me 3 years to accept I was a stay-at-home mom because I had worked tirelessly to make a 4.0 GPA,
Hmm.
so that I could work the dream job that I always wanted. And then to have to give it all up because I was raising children, I just felt so like, wow, Lord, I have to give it all up. But he, again, is making up time.
Yeah.
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 So
That's good.
we have to trust him.
Yeah, that's I'm to make sure my wife listens to this episode in particular because she stays at home raising our kids, homeschools them, and it's challenging. And even though she loves it most days or most of the moments of the days, just to recognize that God actually is with you that now, but also preparing you for whatever whatever the next thing is, and that's a good moment of hope too.
I believe being a stay-at-home mom is probably the toughest job. Um, and it equips you for whatever the next season of life,
Yeah,
hands you. I mean, it really does. So, uh, wow. And doing what she's doing, hats off to her. Yeah.
I agree.
She's got a special place in heaven for sure.
I agree. Now she has to listen to this episode.
That's right.
All these things. Make sure she
Yes.
hears this one. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Well, good. Well, just a couple of maybe closing questions. One more specific to investing. You've tried a number of different things. Like you said, you've been in a few different lanes in the analogy you talked about. What are some of your favorite investing strategies that you've done over the last years?
So my favorite investing strategies. Well, I can tell you one of my favorite, it's not mine, it's my daughter's.
Okay.
So when she got out of college, she wanted to go, move out like they all do. She moved back home for a little bit and saved money, and then she was ready to go buy a home. And I said, don't go buy a home, go buy a duplex.
Yes.
And you live on one side and then you rent out the other. And that person is going to pay for your rent or pay your mortgage. And you're going to live virtually for free, if not free, if you do it right.
Right.
And sure enough, she bought she bought a duplex and implemented that strategy. She only had to put 3.5% down on a $200,000 duplex. So that was $7,000 out of her pocket. And then she had other, several $1,000s set aside for renovations, which she did slowly over time.
Um,
But when her fiance proposed to her, I said, well, you can marry my daughter, but you first have to buy a duplex. And so he went and did the same thing. And then when they got married, they were able to merge their properties together, put it under one note, and they, converted it to a traditional. But they pulled their money back out, and they have been able to invest in my syndications as a
um,
result of that. Yeah, so that was beautiful to witness all of that come full circle.
yeah.
And yeah, so it wasn't my investment strategy, but it was my idea, and she pulled it off perfectly, as did her fiance, now
That's
husband.
great. If anybody's going to listen to this podcast for long, they're going to hear that one often because my kids are, well, I have a lot of teenagers right now and one in their 20s. So I'm always telling them and any other young person who will listen to me, and I'd say a fourplex if you can, because you're maximizing that strategy.
Yes, right.
Owner occupy it, and then go to the next one and keep doing that. That's it's a great strategy. And then I love that also, since none of my kids are dating anybody yet, I'm going to remember that for when they bring that special someone home. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm glad you like that, but let's talk about real estate first. And then my kids will all roll their eyes and they're like, yeah, we saw that coming, because Jesus and real estate, those are the things I like to talk about. So
That's right. That's good. I
that's
like that.
that's really cool. I'm glad you shared that. So just then backing up a little bit, just kind of big picture Jennifer life. What's something that's exciting or interesting that's been happening in your life recently?
Exciting or interesting? Well, I'm about to celebrate my 35th wedding anniversary
Oh, wow.
with my husband.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my second born is now married. So I've got two left at home, and the third is actually looking to buy a duplex or a
All
fourplex.
right. Here we go.
I said the third, it's my fourth born. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm really just enjoying this season of life. I don't have any grandchildren yet. It's what your wife and all the other women on this call or podcast are going to hear is sometimes being a mom is a thankless job. But when they get to their 20s, it's amazing because they come full circle, and each of my children on their own timing came to my husband and I, and they thanked us for all the sacrifices we made. And we're just really enjoying this season of life. And it's just wonderful to watch them come into their own. So that's what's exciting. It's not real estate, but it's certainly a great season of life.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect as well. I as you know, I invest a lot of time and energy into my family, and you hope it pays dividends, and you do get those occasional thank yous, and that's good. But as they get older, I think you see that even more, and that's really good. Yeah. Well, Jennifer, this is great. You and I get to talk fairly frequently, but not necessarily at this level or this kind of avenue of questions. So I really appreciate your time. It's been awesome. Thanks for being you're the third. This is our third episode, so pretty fresh, but really excited to have you here and excited to see what God's going to do in both of our journeys, hopefully even together. And just encourage everyone else who's listening to stay tuned here and check out Jennifer's podcast as well. And contact me if something that we talked about today kind of stirred your interest and you want to talk more about it. Reach out to me and we'll talk some more. But for now, that's it for today. So everyone have a good day, and thank you again, Jennifer, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us with another episode of Faith-Filled Investing.